There we go.
All right. Well, that makes it official. You are here with the Research Committee meeting of the Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission for March 2024. Thanks so much to all who have joined. I have as the first agenda item the welcome and introduction, so maybe we can just use the chat for that portion here to make that go a little bit more efficiently. So if you'd like to announce yourself either as a commissioner, associated staff, or member of the public, please feel free to do that within the chat, which will be at your bottom right within the Google Meet window. I'm David Armenti, a commissioner and research committee chair.
Chris Haley, Director of Research, Student Outreach and Education and the Legacy of Slavery in Maryland at the Maryland State Archives. And Commissioner.
Nick Crary, Commissioner and Chair of the Reconciliation Committee.
Thanks for joining, Nick. And I see several other commissioners as well as State Archive staff and Heritage Associate staff being represented by Mr. Brett Tyler. All right. So I think as most folks know, the purpose of this committee is to organize and strategize around the research process for the various cases, individual victims, as well as the genealogy of those victims, as well as perpetrators associated with the crimes that we as a commission are studying and documenting. There have been a variety of developments, as has been the case in some past years. The focus of research has kind of shifted depending on what hearings we have coming up, and again, that's not exclusive, that's not excluding other cases being studied, but for the purposes of the committee and for the commission at large, we do often put our energies behind where we know we're going to have that major public engagement. So a primary component of the conversation and updates today will probably be around Frederick County. So any sort of information, especially about that, but again, not to the exclusion of other cases or other information that people participating here may have to share with the group. So I will probably call on support of colleagues from the archives, the committee, as well as Heritage Associates as we're talking about Frederick County, amongst other things. So I think the most important thing there is to note that April 13th is still our target date for a public hearing in Frederick, and that would be a Saturday. So particular hearing. A lot of details are yet to be determined, such as who all the speakers are, but we have some of those pieces in place. So, Nick, would you mind joining to maybe we can kind of tag team on the updates related to that hearing as it stands right now?
Sure. As of right now, it looks like we will be holding the hearing at the Lincoln Elementary School, which is the oldest school for African Americans in Frederick, dating back, I think, about 100 years or so. We filled out the paperwork. There is a fee for the space usage, and so we're kind of right now trying to figure that part out. Because apparently neither of the grants that we got from the DOJ, actually, we didn't think to put money in for that. But, I contacted Will Schwartz, and the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project may be able to help with that. So stay tuned. Let's see. Trish Boyle has gotten invitations out to the potential speakers, including one, collateral descendant of John Biggis and one collateral descendant of James Bowens. So we've got, we will have. It's looking like and actually, Lacey Spencer, the Biggis family member, has confirmed that she will participate. So we'll have at least one. Waiting to hear back from Terry Scott, and Dean Herron has been, very much involved, and he has already said that he is willing to do that. I guess we just have to wait for his formal, acceptance and, saying that he's willing to participate. But yeah, he's one of those folks on the ground that is helping to move heaven and earth to make this thing happen. Trying to think what else. Oh, and it looks like the Derek from Hatcher Group is trying to get a meeting together, I think Wednesday or during this week, to kind of start talking about the PR side of this, because some folks want to start getting the word out, because we're like under 45 days before April 13th. So that's, at least as of this morning, where we are. I haven't had a chance to check my email in the last hour and a half or so. So there may be new stuff there, but that's at least as of about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, Pacific time, where things stand with Frederick.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And so to reiterate, the three victims that we are focused on in Frederick County are James Carroll, James Bowens, and John Biggis. So we have three racial terror lynching victims. There had been a possible additional individual, actually two that were put up for consideration, one by local individuals and one that had otherwise been documented. I believe that was Paige Wallace, but there was an issue of the murder did not actually occur in Frederick County, although there were associated So Nick mentioned, obviously, PR and getting the word out, making sure that we have our site in place, also thinking about those various speakers. So again, whether they are descendants, collateral descendants, we're also working with local bodies such as the NAACP chapter, ARCH, which is an African American research heritage organization based in the county. So we've got some good local collaborators in addition to the ones that Dr. Creary just mentioned. So one of the other steps that we'll be engaging in, and I had reached out to Brett and Donna of Heritage Associates to hopefully reignite this process. When they came on board with the commission, over 2 years ago now, in late 2021, one of the pieces of documentation that we instituted was basically a victim profile and case checklist, which I'm happy to share around the versions for the 3 victims that were developed in 2022. And Brett, feel free to chime in if I'm misremembering or misrepresenting any of this. But essentially, what these were documents that would summarize the various aspects of a particular case. Actually, I'll go ahead and share screen right now so folks know what I'm talking about, and we can kind of put our heads together on how to utilize these or update them. So give me just a second. Can anybody confirm that you are seeing the victim profile document for James Carroll, or do I need to adjust the way I'm sharing?
Yes.
Good. We can see it.
Yeah, you can see
Okay,
it.
great. So this is gonna, each of these documents as they stand, started with a baseline profile of the individual, including where they're coming from, physical characteristics as best as can be determined by primary and secondary sources, some of the community context, as well as characteristics of their families. This becomes particularly important as we are trying to establish the genealogical relationships. Something that that has come up in several cases is that we have individuals who have migrated as individuals from what might have been their home community, and therefore, finding them in census records earlier in life has really been essential for establishing where they come from, who they're connected to, and give us leads as to other information about their lives that had not been documented thus far. So community and family aspects, that might also include whether they're tied to a particular religious institution. Again, other avenues for research. Then, of course, what Heritage Associates would have put together were some of the specific details of the lynching cases, the incidents themselves, as well as the aftermath of them. In this case, outlining some of the community members that were involved, white, black, otherwise, that knowing about them could inform further research and keyword searches. But also, that genealogy is important for giving us a sense of who might participate in the hearings. So Dr. Creary mentioned Devontae Freeland as one of our invited guests. That invite was the result of research and genealogical connections provided by Heritage Associates. So that's a good example of how research supports and then informs how the hearings will actually occur. And hopefully Mr. Freeland does agree to participate and can, really provide that space, because, that's one of our primary purposes for the hearings, is to give descendants, whether direct or collateral, space to speak their testimony and be a part of the conversation about what reconciliation or repair would look like. Any questions or thoughts about these profile documents, or
David,
perhaps other piece of information. Yeah.
if I may, just wanted you to know that we have updated the profiles for Biggest and Bowens. We're still working on James Carroll. And once we complete James Carroll, we'll upload all three to the website.
I guess the one question I have, and it's sort of related, is, and again, David, you know that early on the idea was to, combine Frederick and Carroll counties. Carroll has the one case of Townsend Cook, and thinking in terms of time frame that we have between now and trying to get the the hearings done so we can get the report going. Do we have a profile for Townsend Cook yet? If so, do we want to try to, at this point, sort of scurry to try to find more information and or relatives, or should we just try to do that one separately? Because I think in some respects, it might be easier to add a fourth case to Frederick versus gearing up and trying to do an entire hearing for the one case. But and here again, this is also knowing that the Carroll County Coalition has basically sort of gone defunct as well.
It is a good question to ask.
Dr. Cleary, Dr. Cleary, I just looked on my computer. I do not have a profile for Townsend Cook.
Okay.
But we can construct one if that's the will of the commission.
I actually do see one, Brett, that you produced in January of 2022, which I can share back to you.
Okay.
I mean, of course, understanding that, new things may have been revealed in the meantime, but that was at least that initial sweep that we can use as a foundation. I guess to the question, my most honest answer would be I don't know. It does seem like it would be challenging within the time frame, but I also hear exactly what you're saying about efficiency and what some of those initial plans had been about combining the two counties. So I know we had done you had done some outreach to the folks that were formerly comprising the Carroll County Coalition. The only other contact that I would have in mind is Jack Del Nunzio, who I'm happy to reach out to and see if he's still at all active. Some may remember he was both a Carroll County community member, but also somebody who was attached to Dr. Chavis's program at George Mason, so had an active role with the oral history collection at least a couple of years ago. So yeah, like I said, that's the only other name I know that might be a ready contact, but so I'm happy to pursue that if nothing else.
Yeah, and I can also reach out to Roxana and Aaron to see if they've got any information that we might not have, just to see what there is, to see if that's a viable option at this point.
Yeah, and perhaps if we feel like that's the amount of due diligence that is what we can do at this point, we could still we can bring that to the full commission as well. Like, do we just kind of try to include that individual story so it gets that public acknowledgement, because we're not necessarily sure if Carroll is going to happen in a separate format. So it's certainly worth putting to a vote or some more consideration, I think.
Yeah. David, I did find the profile, so I'll
Okay,
update
great.
it. Yeah.
And thank you for starting to work on those updates. I think Brett, that in addition to Dean Herron's report, which I think all of us researching have found great value out of, and the fact that he's participating in the hearing is wonderful. I think that those could kind of be some of the core documents that we make sure that all commissioners have, and our collaborators in the community as well can be aware. And that can also help to drive if there are, additional questions either coming from descendants or other folks about what's been revealed here. But yeah, please do share those. So when you say upload, are you saying to the Google Drive? You're muted.
Yes, I'll upload them to the Google Drive.
Great. So like I said, I'll be sure to share that around, as well as the Herron report, so that we have that baseline information. I think the other thing that, especially Nick and I, as we continue engaging around Frederick directly, and I know more and more commissioners will be brought into that conversation as things get firmed up, is to confirm the speaking roles and how do these research compilations inform what various speakers might have during the hearing. I believe so. In past hearings, it has been, I think, primarily community members that have basically read narrative profiles of the victims and the incidents. So we're still kind of figuring out, do we have those individuals in place, or is that going to be a commissioner role for one or two or some of the out of the three victims that we are going to be acknowledging during the hearing? So some of that is to be determined. But I know, at least as the research committee chair, I'm kind of in the queue as one of the folks that might have that speaking role. So I'm keeping that in mind in the planning.
Yeah, I do know, of the, with the group that's working on the ground, there's, a movement, or I guess, sort of a preference to have local folks kind of, emceeing the thing. And so, yeah, I think, yeah, and they're going to be the ones that I'm getting the sense, who are going to be looking to get local participants involved. Yeah, and I think, even just thinking about, sort of the run-up show that we usually do, yes, there's always been that space for you to talk about, sort of, the state of the research, to give that update. And I think that we should continue to do that. And I'll make sure that's there, because I think that's a very important part of what we're doing. So, but yeah, I think that should be fine.
And I think between the two of us, Nick, if we can confirm those descendant invites with Heritage Associates, and I guess just make sure that, because I don't think, because Lacey Spencer, I believe, was a contact that had kind of did not come out of commission work, basically, right? So we may want to, cross-reference that within the genealogical research, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can forward. I mean, I just got her contact information from one of the other members of the, the Frederick Remembrance Memorial. So, but yeah, I can share that, with Brett and Donna.
Great. Any other questions or comments at this point? So again, I think for all present commissioners and members of the public to know, April 13th is still our intended date. I think that's another thing we can work with, at the full commission meeting, but maybe probably even before next week, is to get a calendar hold or some sort of invite out, perhaps from our project manager. And like Nick said, there's also going to be work done around the PR outreach material, so that will also be valuable to distribute to all folks involved, to help spread the word and also think about what their own participation could look like on the day of.
David, I take it we brought on board the marketing firm.
Correct. So it was mentioned in passing. It's the Derek Turner Group, I believe is the formal name of the organization. And
the Hatcher Group is the
excuse me,
formal
sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Derek Turner is our point of contact, and so yeah, but it's officially it's the Hatcher Group.
Great.
And so they've been sitting in on some meetings, but I think they're still getting their kind of feet wet with how communications and such information sharing has gone within the commission and into the community. So all that is to say, I think any suggestions or requests that we may have of the Hatcher Group, that can kind of be funneled through commissioners such as myself as well. So, thoughts about types of collateral or, avenues for getting the word out. But obviously they are thinking about some of the things that our colleagues in Frederick have suggested already, like utilizing local media outlets and, creating an updated press release and things like that. So those materials should be upcoming, but there's definitely still flexibility in how that gets planned.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it.
So I think that's most of what we had to report on Frederick, other than to say that, we'll continue to compile that research and share out as appropriate. The other county that I highlighted in the agenda is St. Mary's County, which is another one that had an individual victim, which was Benjamin Hance, if I am not mistaken, in St. Mary's County. So I bring up that jurisdiction because conversations have started again between another commissioner or two and some local contacts down there. So St. Mary's seems to be poised as well for a potential 2024 hearing. And similarly, we have had baseline research done, and I know Brett some other efforts to connect down there that probably happened mostly in 2022. So I'm mainly flagging this as a likely area of focus once we get through for Benjamin Hance. But perhaps just a general letting folks here know, but also if there's other information about either the Benjamin Hance case research, associated research that should be shared with Michelle or anybody else, Trish, who's having those conversations in St. Mary's, that's something that we want to highlight and, strategize. Yes.
David, I'll check with Dawn after this meeting, but I believe she has rather relatively located a descendant relative of Benjamin Hance. So I'll check with her probably tomorrow and send you that information.
Great, that'd be really helpful. And it may be a situation where I can kind of, create another group email thread. So we're making sure the information gets to the most relevant and direct people. And as I recall, there were some effort, and I might be misremembering this, Brett, but there may have been some efforts with the Catholic Church outreach that were attached to the Benjamin Hance case. I know you may not have had a chance to look at that ahead of this meeting, but that's kind of ringing a bell.
There was, and that's about 1.5 years old, and it did not bear fruit, at least not yet.
Okay, good to know. And that's something, again, as if we gain additional contacts, in the next 3 to 6 months, working toward a hearing, maybe that's an avenue that could be revisited. But yeah, we can follow up on those details. And I would also say, Brett, as you kind of reconvene with Donna, what if there are any things that you would want to assign to commissioners in the lead up to Frederick County, especially, if there are, I don't know, particular collections that, we should be spreading out that work, please feel free to share it out that way, because we are in a bit of a time crunch. So we definitely want to find ways to activate our commissioners, and, if there are other folks that are supporting on that side.
Understood.
So those were the two primary jurisdictions or set of cases that I had plans to talk about here today. So I guess at this point, I would open the floor to anybody on the call if there are either updates, questions about what's already been addressed, or any other new information to share.
I just texted Lacey Spencer, and she said she is fine with me sharing her contact info with you, Brett. So if you'd like, and I mean, I realize this is being recorded, but I'm going to presume that people won't spam or Zoom, or I'm just trying to see if there's a way to send a message directly as opposed to putting it in the general. You know what?
Can you send him an email? Can you send?
Yeah, I can
Okay.
do that. That might be the easier thing to do now that I think about it. But yeah, but I will get that contact info to you ASAP.
I'll look for the email.
Okay.
Nick, I've been thinking about your question regarding Cecil County and how to work in the lynching there. And I'm wondering if it makes sense to group Cecil, Kent, and Queen Anne's together. One geographically.
It was actually Carroll County, not Cecil.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
okay.
Okay. No,
No.
my apologies.
No worries. No worries at all. I mean, yeah, it gets to be a challenge to keep it all straight.
I'm looking at a map of Maryland, so
Mhm.
which I'm sure everybody else has done previously.
All right. Well, if nobody else has any additional questions or comments, I'm happy to put 20 minutes back on your schedule. I'm sure folks have plenty to do. We will have some pretty immediate follow-up steps, particularly regarding the planning for the Frederick County hearing. So please keep an eye and ear out for information coming either from Nick, myself, project manager Trish Boyle, and we certainly, like I said, will be widening the circle, and as these details get confirmed, but at minimum, please flag Saturday, April 13th on your calendars for participation, and we will be getting more information out, hopefully pretty rapidly over the next week or two. And next Monday will also be our full commission meeting at 11:30. So if you don't already have that on your calendar, please visit the website for the meeting information. But that'll also be another forum to provide some updates here.